Hey, Sean, any updates in terms of injuries, Demarcus or anyone else?
Yeah, so Demarcus got just a little hand avulsion yesterday, ended up coming back, so we'll just kind of have to protect that and pad it, but he should be good to go. But your typical bumps and bruises, but nothing that should limit anybody's ability to be ready for the upcoming game.
Matthew looked like got a little bit in this early in the second quarter. Something happened with his ankle or leg. Is he okay, or
He's
what's
good.
happening?
Yeah, he just had a little lateral ankle sprain. Nothing that's going to change his weekly rhythm as far as practice stuff like that. He ran today with part of the lift, but got it banged up a little bit. He's tough. He pushes through, and he should be good to go.
You guys claimed Emmanuel Forbes Jr. off waivers from the Commanders, correct?
We did, yes.
Can you tell us what went into the thinking and how he
Yeah,
might fit in?
yeah. Player that we liked as part of the evaluation process coming out a couple years ago out of Mississippi State. Had a lot of ball production. Had some good tape out there, even when we played them last year. Playing, showed versatility, showed competitive toughness on the edge, good ball skills, and so guy that don't know too much about personally. Cam Curl was excited to be able to reunite with him, but we'll get him in here, get him acclimated to the building. But he was a guy that we liked and had a familiarity with just based on the evaluation coming out of Mississippi State. And then I thought there was some good tape that he's put out there when we've gone against them, particularly later in the year last year.
Will there be a corresponding move? And I think I was reading the snap count correctly. It didn't look like Akello played yesterday.
Yeah, Jacoby and D Will ended up. We will have to make a move, but it won't affect Akello. We D Will and Jacoby were able to go wire to wire, and they did a nice job for us. But Akello has been a guy that we will certainly need. He's been a big part of a lot of good things for us, and we're grateful to have him on the team.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, is there a possibility that Tyler is back this week?
There's a possibility. I think it's more likely we'll see, what the following week looks like. But he has exceeded everybody's expectations, probably other than his own. It was great having him back out there. He'll get another good week of practice, and we'll see where that leaves us. But if I was to say, is it more or less likely that he would be able to play this week? Probably a little bit less likely, even though he might be able to. But whether or not, we're quite at that point, I don't know that yet.
And then I know that after a couple of weeks, you guys have reestablished some continuity along the offensive line. What does that mean for Jonah Jackson now and then moving forward?
We're taking it a week at a time. I think the best thing that sometimes I know I personally get myself in trouble. If you're not in the present, I think that's the best thing that you can do while not minimizing the way that things could be affected. But I don't know what injury. We've been fortunate to stay healthy. I think he's done a great job of practicing. He's improved. You can see he's getting more and more comfortable with some of the different things. And I've been really impressed with just the man and the way that he's handled a unique circumstance, to say the least. As far as what that means, I'm taking it a day at a time with this group and trying to pour into him. And he's approaching it that same way. And I think there's been improvement on his end from what we've been able to witness in these practice settings.
And then last for me, the Bills game a couple of years ago, really physical game, and injuries started compounding pretty much that night onward for you guys in what was kind of a crazy year at that point onward. I guess, what do you remember from that time, and what did it sort of reiterate to you about continuing to develop that physicality that you want and that you guys have been trying to instill in your team after that time?
Yeah, I think I think what you remember is that every year is a new year, and you have to reestablish. You have to continue to identify what are the ways that maximize the group that you have. You want to try to be smart about being healthy, but toughness will always last. In a league that's so cyclical, in a league that's ever changing, being tough on both sides of the line of scrimmage, that's tried and true, and that sustains over time. You've heard me say it before: tough times don't last, tough people do. I thought we played tough and gritty yesterday. I think that was, a step in the direction that we need to be able to go and that we want to go to maximize this group. But that was a humbling night. I thought our defense did a good job that night of being able to take the football away. We weren't able to capitalize offensively, but they got the best of us, and we all saw what a freak show Josh Allen was in person, and he's probably playing even better than he was then. And it sure says a lot about what he's doing for this team. And they just won their 5th division in a row last night in week 12 or their 12th game. So it shows you what kind of caliber team we got coming in here, and we got to be ready to roll.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Adam.
Hey, Sean, do you expect John Johnson or Troy Reader to be back at practice this week?
Yeah, it's interesting because we got that one spot left, and what's unique in terms of being able to utilize that for the return off of IR with the amount of slots that you do have. Both those guys could be physically ready. Both those guys would represent our team getting better. The unique thing that Les and I and some of the defensive coaches were talking about it earlier is if you were to have an injury at one of those positions, it maybe makes it a little bit easier or gives you some clarity in terms of, okay, if we had something at the safety, let's bring JJ back. If we had something at the inside linebacker, let's get Troy back. So those are ongoing conversations. But as of right now, we're still working through that. Would love to have the availability to bring them both back. It's a tough situation that nobody to blame but us for that. And so, we'll handle it accordingly, but I don't have a clear-cut answer on that, Adam, for you, but they both could be available. But we only have one of those guys that we could actually bring back.
Does that IR math include KT Levinston having
It does.
returned?
Yeah, it does, because of the way that we utilize that spot at the beginning of roster cuts.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then yesterday somehow was the first time Rob and Steve have been on the field together, like the first time you've had a full allotment of offensive linemen to pick from. So what was the assessment of how that group played together yesterday?
Played tough. I thought they played gritty. I thought it was especially illustrated in the run game, the way that we came off, the way that we hit blocks. I thought both backs were decisive, being able to press, the line of scrimmage and then get the ball downhill, especially when they were really heavily committed to the run with some of the different structures they were playing defensively. But I thought Rob was really good. I thought he played really productive in the run game. I thought he strained to finish. I thought for the most part, we did that across the board. There's always going to be areas of improvement. But when you just flipped it on and you said the identity that we wanted to play with, I thought it was a step in the right direction, absolutely, for our offensive line. And it was good to see that. And I thought that was a big difference in us being able to, get the result that we were hunting up.
Does that feel like, as you try to make that final push towards the playoffs, important to finally have that whole group together and try to, like Jordan was saying, build that continuity now over the last?
Yeah, I think it's vital, and I think it's really vital for us to establish some different ways of playing in a physical mindset and mentality. I think that's going to be a key and critical factor always if you want to be an offense that has a chance to be productive, like we're obviously striving to do. And I thought that was a big factor. So yes to both of those questions, without a doubt.
Thanks, Sean.
You're welcome.
Sarah.
Hey, Sean. I know you are very focused on what is happening now and not looking ahead. But I'm curious, Jimmy Garoppolo signed a 1-year deal, obviously hasn't played because Matthew Stafford has been healthy. How would you evaluate how he's done this year? And do you anticipate him coming back next year?
Yeah, I mean, I love Jimmy. I love being around him. I love what I've seen from him. You guys have heard me talk about, just the opportunities that he's had in these practice settings to show his stuff. I've been a fan of Jimmy's for a long time, whether it's competing against him, watching him from afar, and then you get to know him a little bit better. As far as those types of things, like you said, we're in the moment. I love working with Jimmy. I'm grateful to be here with him right now. And obviously we love Matthew doing his thing and leading our team. But I'm focused on this team and doing as good a job as I can one day at a time. Would you like to continue to work with him? Yeah, of course. I definitely would say that. But I'm enjoying working with him right now, maximizing those opportunities, and then we'll have a little bit of clarity as we get through this. But we're going to take it a day at a time and try to be the best we can for this week and our week of preparation for the Buffalo Bills.
As a backup quarterback, when you aren't getting a chance to play because of the starters healthy, especially for a veteran guy like Jimmy, what can you learn and take to then have the opportunity to start again somewhere else after this?
Well, I think you can just maximize the ops that you're given, to continue to sharpen your skills, to be able to look at, all right, what does a great player like Matthew do? How does he go about the weekly rhythm and his preparation? Jimmy's played at a high level in this league for a long time. And so he's got his rhythm and routine. I think Dave Ragone does a great job of being able to get both Jimmy and Stetson up to speed on what we're trying to do, because Matthew takes, all those reps. And I've been really impressed with just the consistency at which Jimmy comes into the building, the way that he interacts and acts and responds to his teammates and those types of interactions, the way he elevates people around him, the way that he's able to communicate with the coaches. And he's really been a joy to be around.
You've had a unique experience with Carson, with Jimmy, with Baker, that maybe a head coach would not get when you have a veteran quarterback like Matthew Stafford. What do you enjoy about the opportunity to work with guys, high picks, veteran guys who have that experience?
Yeah, just learning, from their experiences, picking their brains, where they've been, systems they've been a part of. There's just so much that those guys have to offer from the accumulation of their experiences. All of them different, but all of them in really cool atmospheres and environments where I'm very curious as to what they've done, how they go about it, always trying to think about what are the best ways for us to do certain things. I think there's a wisdom and there's, just other experiences that you can draw on. But all three of those guys, there's a little bit different. And all of them were awesome, to be around and big time, parts of our football team.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maria?
Hey, Sean.
Hey.
Having looked at the tape and then thinking ahead to the next week, what can you specifically work on in practice this week to get off to a faster start?
Yeah, I think just the consistent execution. I know we kind of talked a little bit about this in the post-game presser with Jordan yesterday. But it really is how much can we make sure that we're putting our guys in the right spots, and then they're able to execute. And it's all of us in it together. But it's the consistent execution. It's the consistent sound things that we're asking our guys to do based on whatever those matchups are, or the given opponents and what we're anticipating and expecting. And, there's been some examples where we've done it, and there's been a lot of examples where we haven't done it well enough, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. But we're going to continue to strive for that consistency throughout 4 quarters. And that's really what I would say. I don't know if I have some great answer for you. I wish I did. Otherwise, we'd be doing it a little bit better.
How frustrating is that for you to be on the sideline as you see the time ticking away?
It's not. I think you have to be in the moment. I think you have to understand I'll tell you what wasn't frustrating was some of the great red zone stops that we were able to get defensively. And for it to be, 3 plays offensively in the first quarter, feel like you weren't able to get into a rhythm, but our defense kept playing. And for it to only be 6-0 at the half, based on everything that went on, I think there was a lot of optimism and there was a lot of encouragement on, all right, what we're capable of doing if we just kind of put it together. Talk about some of the things with the solution-oriented mindset and mentality, and the guys ultimately brought that to life. But I know that we're at our best when we're in the moment. We're totally immersed in being in the present, doing the things that we can control, making sure that, hey, when things aren't going down the way that we want, let's be able to talk about it, let's communicate it, let's correct it, and then let's ultimately try to be able to give our guys the best opportunity to go execute. And how that's brought to life with a mental and a physical toughness. And I thought that was on display yesterday. Do we want to start faster? Of course. But I think the resilience, the ability for guys to be able to keep it together in spite of some of the frustrating experiences is a good reflection on our football team overall.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Eric?
Hey, Coach McVay, a couple quick
Hey.
ones for you, and
Sure.
thanks for doing it. Against the Dolphins a couple weeks ago, I believe they ran 3 or 4 reverses against you guys offensively. Are you seeing more reverses this year? And if that's the case, what's your reasoning for that?
Yeah, you're saying are people running more against us?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
are they just trying to get the edge with the receiver
Yeah,
versus the back?
I think we do a great job pursuing to the football, and then depending upon what that looks like with flow away, if there's not some integrity based on what that pursuit looks like, you open up some edges and opportunities to be able to, get the flow of the defense going one way and come back the other. That is something that we've seen a little bit. It started with Detroit in the very first game of the year, and usually if a team shows that they can have some success on some stuff, it's going to be replicated. This is the ultimate copycat league. And there's been some opportunities where people have replicated that, had some success. We've made an emphasis on it. They tried one yesterday, got a decent production on that game, but then there's been some other opportunities where our ability to read out of the stack, redirect, have some integrity in terms of what that pursuit looks like on the backside. But that has been a focal point for us. And I think, yeah, we have seen some, and it usually goes back to the Lions had some successful ones on us, and then usually people replicate it once it's on tape. If you show that it's something that can work, you're going to get it until you show that you can consistently stop it.
And then what's your policy on trick plays? I mean, when do you like to run them? How many do you usually have going into a game? And are you seeing more trick plays league wide just because of trying to create explosives?
Yeah, I mean, I think, we haven't run a whole lot of trick plays here. There's a lot of success with people doing it. I think there's a philosophy of a lot of people, carry a handful of, an inventory of trick plays that they start working throughout the course of the year that they can kind of carry and that are all purpose and might be a little bit better against certain teams. Obviously, Detroit's gotten a lot of notoriety. They do a great job with keeping it fun and having a large inventory of tricks. I know New England with Josh McDaniels for a handful of years and Coach Belichick, they were always really good about having that. I thought Mike, when he was even with the Jets, they did a lot of different cool stuff. We've done that here and there, but we're always going to do what we think is necessary. But those plays take time, and if it's applicable, then we'll do it. But it hasn't been something that's been a huge focal point for us over the last handful of years, and maybe we should start, implementing that a little more.
Last one for you, Coach. Bubble screens. I think we're seeing less of those. Is that because of how you can block guys in the perimeter now versus how you could block them in the past?
I think so. They're calling a lot more OPIs. We actually threw a bubble screen touchdown yesterday to Puka. It might have looked a little bit different, but that was a version of a bubble screen. But yes, I think there's an uptick. Those plays are being heavily officiated. Whether you want to say it's these RPOs or some of these where, if you're making contact or alignments downfield, there has been a lot of penalties called on those plays, which naturally makes you a little bit more inclined to go away from those. And I think defenses are doing a better job with perimeter control. You got physical guys on the edges. You're getting some bigger bodies that are more versatile guys that can play, the nickel or a safety position and set edges. And so it's a little bit more challenging, and then it's harder because of how it's officiated. But there's still some teams that can make you pay, but there's definitely been a downswing, and whether it's the bubble screens or even some of the perimeter screens that maybe, were a little bit more prevalent around the league in years past.
Thank you, Coach. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
We'll wrap up with Wyatt.
Okay.
Hey, Sean, you guys have had a lot of success with play action, not just this past week, but the entire season. Apart from just establishing the run, what are some of the things that that your guys need to do to execute that at a high level?
Well, I think it always starts up front with the protection. Are you talking about a keeper, a true play action? I think it's important to be able to move the spot, but it really is, about, I do think the run certainly helps. Being able to make things start out looking the same and then end up different has always been a important part of our offensive philosophy. And so, what's the legitimacy of the action? What kind of run cell are we getting? Are we running a boot? Are we running a keeper? Are we running a play action? Where is the setup point? But it really goes down to guys just being able to do their job within the framework of the play. Great protection itself from the line, great route distribution and separation by the skill players they're getting out in the pass pattern, and then good timing and rhythm and good action by the quarterback in the back. And so those are some of the things that are key and critical as it relates to the play action.
And with that, the offensive line, is there anything different that you asked them to do just in terms of execution from a regular pass play?
Yeah, I mean, it is, just some of the different defensive structures, it's off of the run cell. I mean, there's a lot of varieties that you can get as it relates to, all right, what type of thing are we running? But I think it's also really important for guys to understand the intent, What are the mechanics of that particular play within the framework of their role? What are the problems that can arise? And ultimately, you know, what do those techniques and fundamentals look like to be able to legitimize the intent of the play in some of those play actions?
Thank you.
You got it, man.
Thanks, coach.
All right. Thanks, Artis.